Okay, today we are going to continue our discussion talking about Chapter 6, Section 6, looking at mixed expressions, and this is on page 270 in your textbook. Mixed expressions are when we have a whole number attached to a fraction. So we might see something like 2 2/3. What this is really saying is 2 plus an additional 2/3. And if we want to write this as an improper fraction, we need to think about this fraction in this manner. Well, how do I do this? Well, the first thing I do is, once I separate it, is turn this whole number into a fraction. It's very easy, I just put it over 1. So my expression becomes 2 over 1 plus 2/3. Now I need to find the least common denominator. In this case, my least common denominator will be 3. So I change this fraction to have a denominator of 3. I do that by multiplying the numerator and denominator by 3. So I get 6/3 plus 2/3. Now with that same denominator, I add the numerators. I get 8/3 as my solution. We can think about that exact same thing when we're talking about an algebraic expression. So if I wanted to write this expression as a fraction in simplest form, c plus c over 5. Notice I have, in a sense, kind of a whole number and a fraction over here. So first I need to think about changing this to a fraction. I change it to a fraction by putting it over 1. Now I find the least common denominator. In this case, it's pretty obvious. The least common denominator is 5. So I'm going to change this fraction to have a numerator and denominator of 5. So I multiply both the top and the bottom by 5. So I get 5c over 5 plus c over 5. Now that my denominators are the same, I simply add the numerators. 5c plus c is 6c over 5. Let's look at another example, maybe one that's a little bit more complex. Now this example, my fraction is more complicated. In the denominator, it's not a single number, it's now a variable expression. But we use the same exact method. I change my whole number to a fraction over 1, and then I find the least common denominator. In this case, my LCD is x plus 2. Notice x plus 2, in a sense, I can think of kind of as a prime number because I can't factor it. So since I can't factor it, I use the entire denominator. Now I'm going to change my first expression to have x over x plus 2 in the denominator. Well, to do that, I multiply the top and the bottom by x plus 2. So I get 5 times x plus 2 over x plus 2. Now, since my denominators are the same, I simply subtract the two numerators. Now be careful, since I'm doing subtraction, I need to think about subtracting that entire numerator. So I get 5 times x plus 2 minus x, subtracting x, and I'm subtracting a negative 3. So that's adding a 3. All this over x plus 2. Now I can simplify here by using the distributive property, and I might be able to make my numerator a little less complicated. So using the distributive property, 5 times x and 5 times 2 gives me 5x plus 10 minus x plus 3. Again, my denominator doesn't change, x plus 2. Now let's simplify. So I have a positive 5x and a negative x. That gives me 4x. I have a positive 10 and a positive 3 plus 13 over x plus 2. Notice there's no way to really simplify this, so we're finished. Let's look at one final example. What do we do if we have 3 fractions? All right, so here I have x plus 5x plus 2 over x minus 1 minus 7 over x minus 1. Again, the first thing I want to do is make everything a fraction, so I'm going to change my x term to be x over 1. Now look for the least common denominator. Well, fortunately for me, the second 2 fractions both have the same denominator of x minus 1. So all I need to do is bring it into this. So x minus 1 is my least common denominator. So I multiply top and bottom by x minus 1. So this becomes x times x minus 1 over x minus 1. Now they all have the same denominator. I can just link them all together. So x times x minus 1 plus 5x plus 2 minus 7, all the same denominator, x minus 1. All right, let's simplify the numerator here. I can go ahead and multiply x times x using the distributive property, and x times negative 1, there's my plus 5x. 2 and negative 7, that's a negative 5. Now here we'll quickly simplify. X squared minus x and a positive 5x would be a positive 4x minus 5 all over x minus 1. Now it looks like we're done, except for if I look at the numerator might be able to be factored. It could be the case that the numerator and denominator have a similar factor. So let's go ahead and look at our chance to factor the numerator. This looks like a Carl, okay, and because this last one down here is negative, it's going to be a sad Carl. So my numerator is going to be x and x. Possibilities for 5 are going to be 5 and 1. And notice since this is a positive 4, I want a plus 5 and a minus 1. X plus 5, x minus 1 over x minus 1. Oh, we look at that. So the minus x minus 1s will cancel. Since I just have multiplication in the top and I'm canceling the whole denominator, I can cancel both of these out. They both become 1. So I'm left with simply an x plus 5. There's our final answer.